Oh, from New York, New York, you are listening to Extra Time. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Kaylin Carr, Kaylin Kyle. It's a Kaylin Cube show. Extra Time's world is crashing in on itself. Look, we did the pre-show meeting and multiple times. I was like, Kaylin, what's the best thing you saw in Matchday 12? And faced K2, faced C2, but then K2 was answering, and it was, what are we going to do?
Can I just bring up one thing as well? So when we were in our pre-production meeting, Kaylin, you can back me up here as well. We were talking about how much we've enjoyed Extra Time, how, we feel part of the family, how we love working with David Goss. Show. Yeah, great show. Best. Great. Guess what Wiebe decides to throw at us? Well, guess what? The show isn't the show without you or David.
Yeah, of course.
You said that's the show.
That is the show. That is the show. Quote unquote, that is the show.
Well,
so we're just here feeling seen.
Well, before that I said no offense. I said we love both of you. It's been wonderful to add Kaylin with a K, and Kaylin with a C has been here for many years now, and his presence is always wonderful. But the only two consistent figures on Extra Time. I'm just saying.
When anyone starts with obviously, but obviously,
normally
it's never
sit here in the middle of this table, and that is David Goss and myself. David's been around for a decade at this point. Was our trusty Anders before Anders was there.
Okay.
And has been.
What about Doyle? You threw Doyle under the bus as well.
Doyle was out in California, and he wasn't on the show for a long time.
Wow.
Now he has become a stalwart. I will say that, and we miss Doyle. He's unable to be here today as well, and. That's unfortunate.
So for you, Wiebe, would you say just any AI Kaylin will work? You can 1, 2, just fix it.
Chat
whatever.
Kaylin?
Yeah, Chat GBT.
Yeah, Chat Kaylin. We'll just throw it. What would Kaylin say? I'll just start. Let's start firing that away. What do you think? Kaylin
Unbelievable.
Would say?
Right before you go live, you think you're gonna be valued, and then you.
Can I just say you're welcome? Because without us today, you'd be on your own, and no one is tuning into that.
He would love that.
You should have sang that like The Rock. Exactly. There we go. I do have a list off the jump. Let's get to the best thing you saw in Matchday 12, and I will start. The worst thing I saw was 9 red cards. 9. It's like every time I turned around in the studio, we're doing, of course, all the pregame shows on MLS Season Pass and watching you guys fill 5 hours of screen time on 360, and I'm like, trying to keep track of it. It was so difficult, in fact, that our little trivia question on the top of MLS wrap-up was how many red cards were there, and I was so confident. I knew it. I was like, Nigel, you go first because I know the answer, and if you get it right, you're cheating.
Because you know everything.
And I got it wrong.
What did you say?
It was 8.
Guess?
I forgot the Andrew Gutman dog so pullback, which Atlanta fans weren't super happy about. But by the way, very instant replay-like weekend and a packed show. You can check it on YouTube as well as MLS Season Pass. But it was, in fact, 9. And it was all varieties. It was mistaken identity for David Ruiz to get one. It was time-wasting second yellow for Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy, which, Jaquil, I know you're a young man. You're still learning these things, but that's a league initiative, my guy. Like, when you're on a yellow, don't go against league initiatives. You're going to get called for it. There were, possible violent conducts that didn't even get called. Kai Kamara's out here on Instagram.
Do you think everybody's as dialed in on as the league initiatives as you are? You think they're all
well, the players aren't. I'll tell you that right now. I am more aware than the players on that front. But yeah, Kai Kamara's like taking my instant replay thunder on Instagram. He's like, did I get fouled? Did I not get fouled?
I love Kai Kamara, but for me, we had a massive talk about this.
Yeah,
in the
I've had
room.
A lot of those. We'll get to that when we talk
Okay.
Chicago and St. Louis City. But like, there were like a brawl after Colorado Philly. Like, guys, you're in opposite conferences.
I loved it. I felt like I was watching NHL. It brought me back to being Canadian, and I was all about it. I don't condone violence. I don't condone, going at a referee. Thank you. Finish my sentence for me.
A lot of important butts on this show. Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, it was heated. It was heated. Can I go to my list or?
Go for it.
And if I take one of yours.
This is your show, man.
Do you want us just to exit stage right and stage left?
Well, there's only one door, so you know where to leave.
The Kaylin community will wait.
Wow.
Yes, Kaylin's sit back and enjoy. Paul Rothrock, does that name ring a bell for either of you?
Not for me.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Dynamo.
Okay, yeah, you were tuned in there. Yep. On brand for you. I did not know about Paul Rothrock. He is an MLS Next Pro call-up for the Sounders. He scored the game winner in Houston. He's 24 years old. I believe he also scored in the Open Cup midweek, which I'd missed because once the Galaxy went up, I just went on to another game with more drama. But yeah, I guess he played for Toronto last year too. But it's very rare that there's a player in this league that plays, let alone scores, that when you say their name, both I and producer Anders, don't act like you knew who Paul Rothrock was before 2 weeks ago either.
You're throwing everyone under the bus
just saying.
today.
Okay, he says he is a Seattle native, born and bred, Seattle Academy. So I guess I was wrong to throw Anders under that bus. But that was a wonderful moment to see him score that game-winning goal, and Cody Baker in the team as well. So
I think he got to sing the Jingle Bells song on the bus back.
What an honor that is.
It looks fun.
Yeah, I like. Were they pounding on the sides of the wedding?
Yeah. That's their away tradition.
And then Burt Kreischer crashed John Tolkien's interview. Of course,
that was
shirtless.
amazing.
So that was another one of my moments. Kaylin, best thing you saw? No, sorry. K2, best thing you saw. I pointed to you, but those at home will get confused. This is hard.
Best thing I saw was I'd have to go David Ruiz for Inter Miami. A goal, an assist, and then finishing it off with a red card. It doesn't get much better than that. And well, it could, obviously, not the red card. But to have that trifecta in a game, which I feel sorry for him because since he's come in back-to-back matches, he, for me, has been electric. Him, Kromanski in the midfield for Inter Miami. They've completely turned it around. They've completely turned that ship around for Phil Neville and his men without the likes of Mata and Gregory. Huge shoes to fill. Homegrown, both of them. So you feel for him that he got the red card because you're like, oh, you were on such a high, but a goal and an assist and just doing what he does best. So that for me, I'm going to give you some love, minus the red card.
I was told, sources say, that you didn't want to use the Gordie Howe hat trick line.
I didn't.
On MLS 360.
Is that a thing?
As a Canadian, as a potential hockey person.
But is that a Gordie Howe hat trick in Major League Soccer?
I think it's as close as you can get. Right? You got a red card, you have a goal, you have an assist. I don't know what else would it be if it's not that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just wasn't.
Okay, you're not sold.
I wasn't sold. No.
Okay.
It's like I'm not sold on K2, but I'm gonna take it.
But you're
today.
just gonna like grin and bear it. Okay. Car. I'm just gonna try different iterations here. What's the best thing you saw on Matchday 12?
I was literally in DC, so I was on the DC Nashville match, which wasn't the most thrilling, I would say. No Benteke obviously hurt DC, and then Taxi Funtas had to come out of the match in the 20th minute, who was playing as the lone striker. So they were already playing 5 in the back, weren't going to really attack too much, and then you see Nashville was always looking to counter.
Yeah, Nashville known for the tiki-taka and just the... Really draw you in with possession.
So it turned into a tough one. There was literally an armpit goal. I think that did make 360.
Yeah.
If there was a player to score an armpit goal, why is Alex Mawil the perfect player to score?
He was proud of it too. He pulled his shirt up and was showing the exact spot.
So at first, I didn't know what was going on. I thought he was complaining of getting scratched. Like on MLS 360, because there's 872 things going. You're trying to watch all the matches. We were all like, "What is going on in that?" And then in our ear, they're like, "It's an armpit goal." I was like, okay. Because I was looking for scratch marks. I'm like, did he get fouled? Like, anyway, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was not the best, but I would say the late goal by Teddy Curipietro, it salvaged it for me, the match. It gave it some energy, that excitement. I mean, as a young player, 21, we saw it match day 1 against Toronto, and then he did it again. So he was actually coming into the match carrying a knock and ended up saying, hey, I can play another 10, 15 minutes to Rooney. And to come in and get that goal was huge. So they brought in a couple young guys that made the difference. Fletcher got the assist on that. And also, speaking of assists, I think you guys played that on 360. So, the Kalen community, I don't know if you're behind saying, like, hey, let Kalen cook. Let me do my, announcer call on that. But I appreciate it if you are behind that.
I always support you.
Okay.
I just don't support Andrew. I'm kidding. I do.
I know. We'll get there. It's okay. It's okay.
You know what? I do have to give love because if it wasn't for Andrew and both Davids, I would be so lost on extra time. Because
Who's
when you guys
David?
Talk sometimes, I'm like, Gus and Doyle. I'm like sitting here sometimes
I like that
and
they're
I'm
the
like,
other David. That's
seriously,
perfect.
I'm just imagining because we always used to joke and call them the Higuain brothers.
Yeah.
I like that. It's
Sorry.
the 2 Davids now.
It's the 2 Davids.
That's
Doyle, when you're not on the show, this is what happens. I'm just saying. And I'd like to introduce right now, before we get into...
you had one more moment.
I'll get there. I'd like to
why
introduce
it's
right now, it's blacked out on the rundown. A new segment, Things That Kalen Kyle Hates. And we'll start with Justin Miram's soft sellies against Atlanta United.
Wait, let's rephrase that. I appreciate the first one. Okay.
Yeah, he went with the prayer hands, not going to celebrate. And
I respect it.
To his credit, he said he
100%,
reinvented himself.
Yeah, he did. He reinvented himself. The community took his family in. The club treated him unbelievable. So I respect that through and through. Then he got his second, same thing. Okay. But it was throughout the entire match. Like when there were stoppages in plays, he was still going like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, you just scored against your former club. I get it. And I get Atlanta because Atlanta is an incredible organization. My husband played there for one season, and how they treat the families is phenomenal. They make you feel so at home. Anything you need, whether it's groceries. I'm not even kidding. You can ask like the stupidest questions where you think it's stupid, and they have an answer for everything. They're so helpful. But honestly, though, like, you're scoring a brace against your former club. I get it. You don't need to like calm it down for 90 minutes. Like, show a little bit of emotion.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Counterpoint. Is it more trolly, and I know he wasn't trying to do this, to celebrate hard on your goals, or in stoppages of play to go to the crowd and be like, look, I'm so sorry that I'm scoring braces on you and giving you
at a certain point, it crosses over to being like, I can't help but do this.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not trying. I just... The back line is
me do this to you. Like,
and I respect him, but it was like for 90 minutes, I'm like,
now you got me thinking this might be the best advertisement for free agents for Atlanta. Because if it's that good,
you're apologizing.
I'm curious.
I'm apologizing for being even in your presence in another jersey, let alone scoring on you.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
What else do you have blacked out?
The other thing,
because there's three, and it seems like I hate a lot of
other
things.
things that Kyle hated this weekend. Dejan Joveljic in the LA Galaxy going wild with the insurance goal celebration. Chicharito comes off, Joveljic comes on. Joveljic, I don't know if it might have been his first touch.
I think so.
Is there beeping?
Do we really have some?
Look, you know what?
This is
I hope you can hear this, because this is exactly how I wanted the sound to be for LA Galaxy.
Sounds like someone's backing up a dump truck outside of our studio. And I could have sworn that when we moved into a studio off of like the everyday. We're gonna stop. It's a fire alarm. Well, on a show that's been known for landscaping noise, street sounds, children bursting in to interrupt tapings,
dogs, cats. Anything else, Kaylin, on your end? Radiators clanking.
Yeah, girlfriends, parents' basements.
Yeah. The sound reverberating off of the wood-paneled walls, etc. We now have fire.
We're okay, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, it's all good. We didn't evacuate.
It was a test.
Yeah, but by the way,
and we all failed because we all just kept going with
I know.
the podcast.
We're like, we're gonna continue the show, right? You didn't like this celebration. Why is that? I mean, they jumped. Joveljic jumped on the chairs on the bench, and the entire team just like piled on his back, and Chicharito's running over, grinning. I thought it was a great moment.
Look, it's a great moment if you're in a World Cup final or lifting the MLS Cup trophy. I get the Galaxy have struggled this year, 100%. But if you're celebrating, is it only their second win?
It's their second win.
Second win
Cali
of the
Clásico,
season.
so
I get that. But Red Bulls weren't celebrating like that against NYCFC. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like you haven't been good. You haven't played good football. You have amazing players. Celebrate for sure, but it was literally like Chicharito looked like he was about to cry. Joveljic looked like he was about to go down to his knees. I'm like, come on, guys! Like, you're not Argentina in the final.
That's fair. Let me ask you a question. Let's say you were wearing a Galaxy jersey. You were on the field. You don't think you would join in if you
you're not seeing the pitch because you're not buying. Yeah, but if you don't join into that, your manager's looking at you on the game tape because that's all filmed and saying,
I'm just saying, if you had the colors on your back, you wouldn't. You certainly wouldn't. You wouldn't have joined in. Wow. Like, let's just say that, like, Chicharito, maybe he sent you a jersey. Maybe he sent you a nice LA Galaxy care package.
All right, celebrate all you want then.
Kaylin's gonna change her tune.
I'm changing my team. You know what, Joveljic? Celebrate all you want. Chicharito, break down in tears. I am a Galaxy supporter. Sorry, Minnesota United.
So for those of you listening to the podcast, I set that up as well as I possibly could. As soon as I heard you saying that in the pre-show meeting, it's like, I have a Chicharito jersey sent by Chicharito in the LA Galaxy in a beautiful commemorative box ready for Kaylin Kyle. And I was like, I will set you up.
I take everything back. This is how
they got Weeby, by the way. This is how they got him.
The free stuff?
That's how they started
By the way, I'm in the FC Cincinnati home kit here. Thank you, fine folks at Cincinnati.
I was just declining that offer, break. Just so you know.
Don't send me any free stuff. You can't buy Kaylin cards. Can't buy them. So yeah, there you go. You got the Chicharito swag. Nicely done.
Well, you know what? I'll take it back for like a second. Okay. But I mean,
I will say, for me, I think it was partly based on all the pressure that's been mounting, and Chicharito has been at the center of that.
Yeah.
You saw him in the last press conference, basically saying the fans are right. to be so frustrated. Looked light. The crowd looked light to me from what I saw.
Light. Yeah. I agree.
Especially for a Cali Clásico. And just, all that pressure. And I thought Vandy did a good job switching back to the 4-3-3, taking Jovic off the bench. I think he scored on his first touch. And for me, it was also the way he came on and scored. I mean, they lost the ball and it was just counter press, just relentless, and so he gets it, wins it, and then he takes that extra little bit of a touch just to stay calm. It's very hard to switch your mentality of going from I'm pressing to being like, oh, now here's my chance. And he takes that little bit of calmness to take that extra touch and finish. And then you can lose your mind right after that. So I have trouble. Got to have some compassion. I mean, they've been through a lot. Now I'm saying they put themselves through it.
It's Galaxy, baby. Come on. As I'm in the jersey.
Yeah. But that's how bad it's gotten that I do think it is telling that that's how desperate this team is, that it felt much bigger than that. And if you add that on top of what happened midweek where they were able to beat the Sounders and now Alive in Open Cup, now they're playing next week against LAFC, like the margins in MLS are always super tight. And sometimes vibes, especially super negative ones, can stop a team.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you on that. I definitely don't disagree with you, but it was like...
It was a little much. It felt a lot.
It was a lot. And you know what?
But you know what else is a lot? This jersey.
I know.
So
it's a beautiful
Galaxy.
jersey. I think it's the best jersey in the entire crop, and I've said that about probably every free jersey I've gotten this year. So,
are you saying that as you're wearing a Cincy jersey?
Well, second best for the
Thank
Galaxy.
you.
Obviously, Cincinnati #1. Always has been. But I will also say, for Dan Jovic in the Galaxy, it actually turned out that goal was pretty critical.
Huge.
Like Oseni Buda scores in the 94th or whatever. If they had not scored that goal, they do not win the Cali Clásico. So those are the best things we saw. Some of the best, worst things, and also a new segment on the show, which is things.
I love it. If I'm getting free stuff, bring it on.
I'm always down to add a segment.
Prada purse is next.
We'll just start bagging on Prada, and I'm sure it'll come soon. Chicago Fire 1, St. Louis City 0. We're talking new coach bumps, and Frank Klopas is putting on a masterclass, as did Troy Lesesne. Both of them got wins in the Open Cup and then wins at the weekend in rivalry matches. You could say that the St. Louis and Chicago rivalry is quite young, but these are the sort of moments that can create 1-1, an Open Cup victory, and then 2, this match as well. And there were some contentious moments in this one as well. Carlos Terán had to go off after a big collision. Right before that was the Kai Kamara play that we had talked about where he gets kicked and no penalty is called. But Frank, after this game, is raising the roof. Shaqiri's going on a parade around the stadium, and Shaqiri played his best game, certainly in 2023. Maybe you could argue ever in Major League Soccer. Klopas had this quote, and I want you to analyze this for me, Kaylin. Quote, today he played like a DP, like he should play every game. Sorry, Kalen Carr. Yeah, Kalen Carr.
The way I would analyze that is that this is that's his head coach saying this is the first time he's played up to the role of his roster designation.
At least recently, for sure.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that's pretty good analysis from what I've seen. I mean, he really... I would be furious, by the way, if I were Ezra Hendrickson. Just like the fact that it takes a new coach or a manager. I could see maybe a player who's not supposed to be a leader on the team reacting like that, or a young player saying, now I've got my opportunity. I'm going to make the most of it because things are open competition now. But for the DP to be... It's hard for me to be impressed by that. Like from his performance, I'm not surprised by it because I know Frank Klopas well, and part of what he's so good at and why he's such a club legend is that he's able to get the best of people around him as far as just that energy, that passion. Like that's how he played for the Fire, and that's how he feels about the club. And for a long time, he's had to step in and out at times when, frankly, things were just dire, which it's been for the past decade. And so he's played every role from being in the commentary booth to being in the community to being, taking players out who are having a difficult time. He took me out when I was struggling in Chicago for dinner, took me to a Greek restaurant and, give me some confidence.
Grab you by the shoulders and shake you a little bit.
But maybe this is what Shaqiri needed because he's been so
But I
heavily
was
criticized.
a young player in Chicago. I wasn't getting paid like big millions of dollars to lead the team going forward. And so that's the part where it's just like, I can't be impressed. And in some ways, for the way I look at Shaqiri's time overall in Chicago, it's just been so disappointing. Like it's just been, when you have a DP, the thing is, it can't just be the best player. He's got to be more than that. He's got to be a leader. He's got to be somebody that you can watch and set an example for other players. And if it's, if it's going my way, or if I like the manager, or now the manager maybe I didn't like is gone, I'm going to actually play If I'm his teammate, even, I'm going to be like, all right, well, thanks for showing up today.
But there's some DPs in the league. Like I'll go to Insigne because to me, if I look at his play, he hasn't really, maybe inconsistent play, but he doesn't take me as the guy that is that leader maybe on the pitch more like a Bernadeschi. So if I look at maybe a Shaqiri and I understand that you're getting paid the big bucks, it should come with the roles and responsibilities. But sometimes as that big time player, some players struggle with that. They struggle with the weight of the world on their shoulders, or maybe struggle with not confidence, but struggle in the way that they need a manager to kind of baby them a little bit more to get the best out of them. And I'm not saying that's right or that's wrong, but you see it in other leagues as well. I mean, you see it in the EPL, you see it in the Liga, you see it in Serie A, that some players need that extra little bit of like love and caress and care to get the best out of them. And people will be like you just alluded to, and I completely agree with all your points, they're getting paid a crap ton of money. Like, you need to show up and be consistent week in and week out, and he has not done that.
Well, he didn't do it in Europe either. Like, he didn't have to be that player at any of the big clubs he was at, right? Like,
does this turn it around for you, though?
Interestingly, though, probably where he has done it is where he was that guy, with Switzerland.
With the national team, yeah.
And maybe that comes down to environment. Maybe that comes down to vibes, like you said. It probably also comes down to sort of relationships.
Well,
and
yeah,
also
different dynamics. You're playing for your
quality.
country, too. So.
But even at the World Cup, we shared a hotel with them in Qatar. And for me, anytime we saw them in the elevator, anytime we saw them, going, it's beeping again. It's because we're talking about Shaqiri.
Yeah. We'll just roll through.
He never came across to me as that leader. Not in a bad way, but like the loud guy, the guy with the big group of people. No. He was always walking through the lobby by himself, or like with one guy, and it's not a bad thing. That's just Christine Sinclair, for example, because I can speak to that. She's a leader in her own way. She's a very quiet leader. She doesn't have that hoorah, or like, she leads by example with her play. So maybe that's the type of guy he is, because you've seen it with the national team, that because he wasn't like that off the pitch in any of the training sessions that we saw, and in the hotel, in and around just that calm atmosphere. He was never like in that big group wherever, what it's like when you're with a team.
But I'm not
and
saying
it's like
he's
loud
like grab
at lunch.
guys.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like track back, work.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And I agree with you. He needs to show on the field that leadership. I also would say sort of the flip side of that equation is like, I don't know that the players around him throughout his entire period, or the system that they've had, or the momentum that they have, has lent to his best performances. Like, he is not going to be a beat two guys off the dribble, score goals type of player. He is going to be a link up, find him in the midfield. He'll make a great pass. Do you have runners on the wings? Do you have a forward that finishes? Mm-hmm. Do you have consistency among those players? Most of his time in Chicago, they have not had that. That does not let him off the hook. It's been a disappointment for Shaqiri there. But to go on the positive side, like, he was all those things in this game. And it comes to me to Frank Klopas of just simplifying everything. Of being like, look, we're going to put two straight up defensive midfielders. Fede Navarro is going to sit behind you. Jimenez is going to sit behind you. You don't need to do a ton of tracking, though I did see him do more in this game than I have in games past. Like, sit in that half space, find gaps, find an area to receive the ball, turn quickly, one-time passes into the channels. We have runners there for you. Follow it up. Be good on set pieces. He created 5 or 6 chances like that. Be a hub that draws defenders in. Okay, now just play a simple ball, into the path of an on-rushing winger for a cross. We have Kai Kamara. Like, Frank is going to simplify all of this, and that's probably what this team needed. I don't think Ezra was the problem at all.
No.
At all.
Yeah, that one made no sense to me. It was
a weird one.
Just from the standpoint of, like I was talking about the long time that this club has been in a bad place. And I'm not saying Ezra was perfect, but they hired a first-time head coach.
They gave him a year and a half.
So they knew that he wasn't the finished article as a manager. Yeah. So it's about saying, okay, well, can we show some progress? And then you make a couple sales, some big players that got moved abroad, and that changes things, right? Can you develop young players? Gutierrez he's been the one we've been talking about playing over Shaqiri. He should play. Mm-hmm. That tells you where the designated player's performance has been. And now they shift out wide, and it looks like they can actually play together. And then they make a good signing with Kai Kamara. It's been really good for them. But, it just seemed to me like now you have this long passage of time where, like I said, Frank as a person to me, but even as far as like, are they just on hold? Like, are they just going to when are they going to make a long-term decision? Because I don't think Frank is that guy.
No, he's not. And Shaqiri's not long-term either.
So then you're in a caretaker position. And so it's saying, they went back and said, okay, well, CJ and Zach and all those guys are winners. And I was like, okay, absolutely. Ezra Hendrickson's won more than almost anybody in MLS history. So I just felt like the time of that to cut that so short when you were actually able to see signs of progress. And yes, tinkering late in matches, all that. But that's like the final pieces as you're moving forward with a project, not the beginning or the foundation of it. So it just felt off to me and disappointing because it just feels like, depending on how that goes, it could just feel like you're eventually just waiting to maybe start over again.
Andrew, what if he starts winning though and turns this Chicago around? Does that interim go to a head coach? And if Shaqiri ends up having an unbelievable season, then what happens?
I don't think so. Look, it's probably not out of the realm of possibility. That would be Frank's second stint as the head coach of the Fire. I just think I think for the future of the club, to what Kalen is saying, Frank can be the future, probably is the future in a role.
Always, regardless of whether he's in the club, outside the club,
helping establish what the club is supposed to be about, and like reminding people what it was and what it can be, and inspiring them and saying like none of this is acceptable. But no, I think this is his interim run. But who knows, man? This league is so crazy unpredictable. Crazy unpredictable. Like, St. Louis could start the season on fire and basically win everything and be atop of the Western Conference and Supporters Shield table. And then things could crash down to earth, maybe. And
where are they?
St. Louis on the other side. They're still up there because they won so many
where's
games.
City with the font? Where are they with the font size now?
Probably back down to normal font size, I would say.
Maybe a little bit less.
Yeah, maybe like, if like normal on our rundown is 12, I would say
8.
15.
No chance.
Yeah, because they're still in the playoff places. They're still in the top 3 in the Western Conference, right?
One win in their last 6, though?
Last seven, including the Open Cup, which they crashed out of. Taylor Twellman tweeted this, and it's only interesting because Lutz Pfannenstiel quote tweeted him. But Twellman said the Fire deservedly winning at home against St. Louis City. Miguel Perez should have sent off for a second yellow. Yes, correct. John Nelson caught sleeping on the back post defending, then also got sent off, by the way. And then Lutz Pfannenstiel quote tweeted that and said, perfectly said Taylor Twellman, and it simply sums up the whole match. The only thing I would add is the word harmless. Dang. That's your sporting director out here quote tweet dunking on his own team. That is incredible. They're in the top 3 of the West. I mean, I guess he's trying to inspire, but I went back and checked some of the numbers, underlying numbers. They had, they have 4 shots on goal in their last 3 games, all losses, and that was after that big win against Cincinnati. They overperformed their XG in the first 5 games, all win, by almost 7 goals, excluding the 5-1 win against Cincy, where they were plus 3.2. So they're big up, overperforming expected goals this year. It's minus 2.28 since then. 14 games, all comps, 14 starting lineups. They're missing Klaus and Tim Parker in this match.
I have never seen a sporting director
that was strange, right?
Quote tweet that. Like, quote tweet one of our main talents at Major League Soccer breaking down your own team. That's just something that, like, I've been taught in social media and I flunk everything. Never tweet about politics, Lionel Messi, or Cristiano Ronaldo. And I feel like as a sporting director, you don't tweet about your club having a bad performance. No? Am I wrong? I guess I'm wrong. I will see myself out.
No, I just
think it's weird.
I think it's very weird.
I think it's super weird because, I mean, players are going to see that. And if you're a player and you're seeing your sporting director tweet about your team's performance I don't know. That's
a little strange.
That's a weird one for me.
Bradley Carnell has to sort of turn the page here. And I think to give him a ton of credit, he was never on top of the world to start the season. He was always very measured, like, hey, this is great, credit to the players, what they're doing, we're surprising people, it's wonderful. But it never felt like he was like inflated. He was sort of like, yeah, well, things change, like, game by game, we'll see how it goes. But they're in a position now where they have to figure out how to create chances maybe in a different way. Teams have sort of figured out how to play against them, and they did change it up a little bit in this game. It was a 4-2-3-1 that sometimes looked like a 4-2-2-2 depending, and they pressed high. Really high, like all the way back to the Fire's 18. They were really aggressive with the press off the jump for about the first 20 minutes, but they didn't create any of those sort of like, we joked about it, but quote unquote gift chances for Klaus, and obviously did not have Klaus. And yeah, they fell back a little bit, and then they just didn't create.
I think teams too, when they go up against the St. Louis side now, they know that they'll get done in transition or they'll get done on individual mistakes that they make. So a lot of teams, I think, when you do watch the matches when they're going up against them, they're quite happy to have St. Louis have the ball in front of them, make them play side to side, just condense those spaces, not give anything away in that transition or any sloppy balls out of the back. But all the teams that I've seen take on St. Louis, they've changed tactically. They're just like, right, you're an inexperienced team, which isn't disrespectful. It's an expansion team where it's anytime that they won games early on, it was from opposition teams making a mistake or getting caught in transition because they were, press high up the pitch, that Red Bull mentality. And I think teams have caught on to it. So to your point, I think, don't they have one more DP spot available? Correct?
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be really interesting who they bring in for that third DP spot. Will it be a proper number 10 or someone that can lead the line with a João Klaus? I don't think they need a number 9, but it's shown here. If you don't have João Klaus, who's scoring your goals? They don't have anyone else to score goals, or to create really good opportunities.
Boy, talked about the Fire winning, and the fire alarm just ongoing here. New York Red Bulls 1, New York City 0. Hudson River Derby. Troy Lesesne 2 wins in his first week in charge. Caitlin Carr.
Yeah, big. I mean, not the best match, but a big win for them. I think just to get off onto a good start when you add in the Open Cup, which I believe. Kyle, you were at.
I was at. I loved it.
Okay.
I the biggest thing that I saw. So I took my little boy there. He was loving it, like sugared out on Skittles. But I was actually paying attention to the dugouts because I love doing that. I love seeing managers and how they interact. And it was what he was getting out of his players. It was a reaction. It was not all their first team players, but players looked like they had a spark. And that's usually what happens when a new manager comes in, when you've been struggling, one of the worst starts to Red Bull history in Major League Soccer. They just looked like their shoulders had dropped a little bit. Players not afraid to get on the ball. And then speaking to Tolkien as well, he was saying, I was like, what has he added in training? He said he wants our number 6s to get on the ball more. He wants us to play make with our deep lying midfielders, to spray balls from the left and to the right, to gain possession a little bit more. Because quite frankly, it was very frantic at the beginning of the season. It was very much route one. It was very much, ball in behind, get numbers up, win that second phase. It wasn't really, a brand of football. Again, the Red Bulls love that frantic style, but he's implementing a little bit of calmness. And I saw that, and I saw it from Strout's younger brother. He was
Peter Strout.
Mm-hmm. He was honestly unbelievable. He was just calm, cool, and collected in the midfield, just popping balls, 1-2 touch. And that's exactly what you want from your deep liar. So it made sense on the weekend when we had Tolkien on and he was speaking about the number 6 and what they want from him. But I feel like Troy's come in and he's just calmed the ship a little bit, given players a little bit more confidence, given players a little bit more freedom to say, get on the ball, make a mistake, but win it back straight away. And I saw that midweek against DC. I know DC didn't put out their starters in that one because of the turf situation at Montclair University, but still, I really enjoyed that game. And then on the weekend, I kind of saw the same thing, just a little bit more bite. They just need a finisher because they create chances. They just don't have anyone to put the ball into the back of the net.
It's just Omir Fernandez, man, the homegrown.
we
back-to-back game winners.
We were talking about, Klopas and would he get a chance? And, I was watching the introductory press conference for Red Bull, and I think I was more expecting them to say, okay, Lesesne is going to be there for a little bit and he's going to be a part of our staff in the future, but we're going to go out there and make a signing, for a new coach. That was very much not the message. The message was quite the opposite. We believe in this guy. We're not looking. He's going to be our guy going forward, which I think set like I was talking about the wait time and starting over. They're not waiting. And I would actually say I'd be surprised if I think it's always nice when a manager comes in and says, oh, I'm not going to just do exactly what the last guy did, because you want to have your own input and your own style. And it's more fashionable to say, we've seen it in the past with even Chris Armas coming in saying, oh, I want to play a little bit more and not just do the Red Bull way. But ultimately, this team is not set up to play. They're not set up to play through things. Even the goal they score over the weekend is really more of just, picking the ball up, and Omir Fernandez does well to take his touch and hit. But I still think, Lesesne, I think he's a young manager, just 39 years old, but for a young team, it's like a pretty good fit, I think. And he has head coaching experience as well, too, at New Mexico. So I think, but more than anything, the way they set him up is better for success because they've said to the group, like, this is the manager going forward. We have his back. Like, he's in our system. We've identified him even outside of a sort of a traditional hire or, somebody who is maybe already on the bench for a long time or in the club for years. So I think, they've given him a good platform to move forward, and he's got off to a good start.
Which is huge, too, because of the last manager, just the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. As a player, you're always thinking, okay, I'm going to perform for 6 months, and then where am I going to be? Am I going to be on the bench, or am I still going to be in the starting 11, depending on what manager comes in? So, sorry for interrupting.
No, it's all good. The possession numbers were very predictable for the Red Bulls. Like, when they get it, they might be trying to step on it a little bit more, and certainly they did at home against DC. But 31% possession, New York City controlled the match. But the key is New York City didn't create with that. I mean, they got into decent position. They did nothing with them. Like, if you were watching this one, you were waiting for somebody to do something around the 18. And for New York City, that makes sense. They have absences and they have holes when it comes to the number 9 position. For the Red Bulls, same. We're waiting for Lewis Morgan to come back. And Luquinhas, it sounds like Lewis Morgan could maybe even be back this weekend. Maybe not midweek, but at the weekend. But I'm very curious to see what Hossein does, because you're right. In New Mexico, he did not play this way. He didn't play the Route 1 Red Bulls brand. Like, he only learned that in the last year and a half, and we'll see how quickly he picked up on it, what his little individual wrinkles are to it. But at this point, for the Fire, for the Red Bulls, I don't think they really care how they get results. They were in a desperate position. They had to leave their managers behind or move on from them, and they got 2 wins in a week. So that's as good as it gets. Now, speaking of as good as it gets, take your victory lap, Kaylin Kyle. I'm going to go full names. I think that's the way that makes
Wait, why? Sense. What's the victory lap for?
For Montreal.
Oh, baby. Yeah, I had them 4th in the East, I think.
Yeah, 4 straight wins, up to 7th in the East. 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. And this last 2-0, including a win midweek against Toronto in Toronto, was a rivalry week Canadian Classique victory that heaps an incredible amount of pressure on Bob Bradley and the Reds. It does not get better than that if you're Montreal.
No, if you're Montreal right now and you're the Montreal supporters, you are smiling ear to ear because they still have loads of injuries right now within Montreal. I think 2 key injuries, 4 total. But the biggest thing for me is Bryce Duke and Ariel Lassiter coming from Inter Miami to Montreal. We said it on 360. I said, could you build a team around Bryce Duke? And the guys said no. No and yes, I'll say. And I had said, well, you know what? Like, when I'd seen him at Inter Miami, he was actually, for me, the most electric center midfield because he gets into these pockets of space where it sucks center backs out. It pulls fullbacks inside because he's very good at scanning. He's very good when he's off the ball. He knows what positions to get in. Now, when you're a young player, maybe you take one too many touches or you try to dribble too much or you don't dish it when you should dish it in front of the net. But I feel like he's grown because he's given a responsibility in Montreal that there is no superstars there because they got rid of everyone in the offseason and they haven't brought anyone in. And your key starters right now, I mean, Kamal Miller now at Inter Miami, but you have Payet. Then in the midfield, he's still injured, Canadian international. It's given them that role to say, this is my team. I'm going to make it my team. And he has made it his team. I think since coming over, he's maybe added a little bit of confidence that, okay, we don't have, Mason Toye leading the line due to injury. We don't have ball playing midfielders, but I can be that person for you. And I think it's just kind of dropped the pressure at Montreal, if that makes sense. And then switching to that 3-5-2 with Ariel Lassiter on that left-hand side. Ariel Lassiter, same thing at Inter Miami. Maybe that extra touch because he's got the pace to get behind the back line. He's great with the ball at his feet, but it just wasn't clean always in that final third. And I think that was the one thing that Phil Neville really struggled with both of them. Can I trust you on the pitch? Well, they can only be trusted at Montreal because Montreal doesn't have any players right now. So I love this turnaround, and I love that Montreal's kind of bought into these 2 players, but biggest Chouanier as well has been fantastic.
Chouanier, I think,
has been
especially
fantastic.
The last 2. Because it surprised me, and Duke's been an incredible player. He didn't even play this week.
No, he didn't.
Didn't even play this week. And I think that goes back to like what it really is the difference, which is the structure.
Yeah.
And Duke fits really well into that structure, understands how Hernan Losada wants to play. I will put my hand up. We sat at this table. We put it in our headline on the podcast. We're like, what is this trade? What is going on?
I said it. I said this is a
why
weird
did
trade,
they do this? This seems insane. It does not seem that crazy anymore. Kamal Miller, turned out they had a glut of center backs. Gabriel Corbu comes in. He's been playing very well. Joel Waterman, of course. George Campbell they traded for. They're playing Rudy Camacho in the midfield at times. I mean, they have I always get at Dave about depth, and I'm like, why don't they have more? Why don't they have more? Well, this Montreal team is like one of the few teams that actually have it at center back.
Which Dave?
That's true. Young Dave. Young Dave. Dave that's at MLS Next tournament right now.
Oh, okay.
And it's the defensive side that's like the platform for all this. First 7 games, they averaged more than 2 expected goals allowed a game. They were getting blown out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
Playing away. Last 4, it's less than 1 expected goal allowed expected every single game.
Yeah, they were also kind of stuck between 2 minds in the old way, which was the Wilfred Nancy way, which was to play with the ball. And I would imagine even with like the center backs that they had in, Kamal Miller was a part of that, was guys that had been used to drawing people out, trying to play through things. And then, Losada trying to say, okay, well, we also want to get out more and play, a little bit more vertical. And sometimes it just seems like, they didn't quite know who they were at this point. And maybe sometimes you make a move and you make a change. And, honestly, some of these center backs, to play Camacho in the midfield, I was pretty surprised by. But you get him with Wanyama as 2 6s while Piet's out. I mean, that's a pretty strong base. And then you have 3 center backs behind them. Sirois has been very good as the homegrown, coming in after the injury now. And
it took him some time to settle too.
Yeah. But the only thing I will say, if you look at their schedule as of late, I'm not trying to be a hater because respect for them turning things around, but it really hasn't been against top
Anybody speak French? What's soft in French?
I only know like bonjour, comment ça va, ça va bien?
I mean, Toronto is obviously not in the best place at all. That
Shocking.
said, it is very difficult to beat your rival back-to-back like that in a week.
And at their home as well, at BMO Stadium in Toronto. Like that is not...
But I think that those matches set up well for Montreal because all the pressure is on Toronto in those. Like the all of the pressure of, not to say you don't want to go, but like all the stars, all the money, everything that's around that team is on that side. And then, but yeah, New York Red Bull, Sporting Kansas City, Orlando, if you catch them on their off week, like that sort of group has not necessarily been the strongest. So they've been better at home. And it's not to take anything away from it, but I still think, big test this weekend against Weeby's hometown, FC Cincinnati, on the road in Cincinnati. And so,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Don't worry. We'll preview Wednesday action. There's midweek. Wonderful midweek action on MLS Season Pass. 13 games. All the season previews, the game previews are on Season Pass as well. We knocked those out this morning, the 3 of us, so check those out. Galaxy 2.
Wait, we're not going to talk about Toronto? Weeby.
You're right.
We cannot skip Toronto.
I just feel like it's a broken record
it's
at this point.
It's not a broken record.
Injuries. The Italians are not performing. Bob Bradley under pressure. Yeah, you're right, though.
How much time does Bob Bradley genuinely have?
I don't know.
2 wins
depending
on the season,
this fire
bottom
alarm,
in the East.
maybe not that much. Everybody evacuate.
Crickets.
Everybody evacuate. Yeah, it's on. It's on. The pressure is, it is swirling around this team. After this match, his quotes were...
It's crazy.
Were like glass half full, I would say. And, that's what you have to do in these moments as a manager. Is say that, look, it's going to get better. I see a path out of this. But right now, 2 shots, 1 on goal in this game. And that was the response to losing at home in Canadian Championship.
But there's been managers this year, like an Ezra Hendrickson, for example, that's gotten fired for, I think, better performances than Toronto. Like, how much time does Bob Bradley have? Stop being nice, Weeby.
But those
okay,
are
I'm done.
very, like I said, those are 2 very different profiles, right, of managers. Like one has
2 wins for Toronto, and he's still in the job.
I think when you think of what he has accomplished in MLS, that's what they're betting on. Is that if with time and with health too, because that's the other thing right now. If you look at this team defensively and in the middle of the pitch, they're just without their pieces right now. I think Mark Anthony Kaye was playing as like a center back.
Yeah, center back.
So,
left of the 3 with Rich Mabika playing as a center back.
Here's the other big difference. Bob Bradley is the head coach and the sporting director.
It's a lot
in Toronto.
And?
Well, it just means that there's another different layer. Like when Ezra gets let go, George Heights is above him. He's controlling the sporting side of the organization. So he's saying, hey, our sporting side would be better with a different head coach in charge for the time being. This is going to have to be a Bill Manning ownership sort of situation. It's the sort of thing where if you're walking away from Bob, you have put all this time, effort, energy, money, and direction into what Bob Bradley thinks the best route is for your club. And so if it happens, that's going to be a very, 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 very big message sent about what they think about the direction of the soccer at the club. And I don't disagree with you. The struggles are mighty.
Yeah.
And given the amount of money invested and the results, Bob Bradley's been around a long time. He knows what that brings. It brings pressure. And that pressure is on him. It's on his players. It's on the club. It's on everybody. I mean, you saw it after that Canadian Championship performance. The fans are, they are
Just the
expressing that.
performances as
They
well.
are.
Like, players don't like.
Yeah, the performances are poor.
Yeah, they're poor. Like no one, like players not getting stuck into tackles, players not tracking back. That I don't know. It's sad because Toronto is such an amazing club. The supporters are incredible, and yeah, I'm Canadian, so I'm saying this, but it's a great place to go when you're winning. You look at Toronto when they went on that massive run and end up winning it all, and it was honestly, it was so good. It was so good for Major League Soccer. Like that's one of those places that when they're winning, it's good for everyone. Anyways, now we can move on.
I know. I'm just like, I think I'm sort of, I think I tried to skip it because I just feel like I'm sort of holding my, yeah, and I just sort of feel like I'm holding my breath on the situation because it's not getting better. They're not performing better. There just seem to be like one thing after another piling on top. So let's talk Cali Clásico real quick. I know we dug into it a little bit, Kaylin, but you did the pregame show last night on MLS Season Pass. Went home. I'm sure had a nice bevy and
no, he didn't because he's been in all day today. So.
I was going to say, did I go home? I don't remember.
It's all a blur. It's all a blur.
No, but I mean, ironically, I want to talk about managers under pressure. And I think, Greg Vanney has been under a lot of it. And I thought he did a really good job of adjusting the setup. And, when somebody gets it right, you can always point to them getting it wrong prior. But I think he said pretty clearly that the 4-4-2 diamond did not work against Colorado, and that was clear to see, but he switched it, went back to a 4-3-3, which matched up very well against the 4-3-3 of San Jose. You get those. I still think that midfield three for me in LA is really good.
Oh,
like,
so
that's
good.
An elite three, right? So what you have to do when you switch it around to get a second striker on there starts to ask some more questions of that midfield three than really they're prepared for. And that's to defend more than you need to because you want Pooch to be able to have that free roll, to get on the ball as much as possible. But then what ends up happening is when you have him doing that and then you have two strikers and your wingers honestly haven't been good, haven't really defend. It's not even just that they haven't been good, it's that they haven't necessarily always come back and track back defend. We saw them set up in a different way where it was almost let's see, a 4-5-1 when they were against the ball and then more of a 4-3-3 when they had it. And so I think, setting them up a little bit different gave them a much better tactical base and foundation as opposed to what we saw before, which was, all right, you got 4 or 5 defending and 5 attacking and everybody's, completely split and you can just pass the lines. The back line then is forced to step and then you're leaving up space in behind. And, the other thing too is I think just getting some pieces back. Jonathan Bond, he had the big save against Montero. That was really big for them. Klinsmann had really struggled in weeks prior, so I think getting Bond back was big. And then Jalen Neal. It's been kind of the lone bright spot for me this season. And then it allowed Joveljic to go crazy celebrating. That now Caitlin supports.
And the other thing that
I've always supported that.
But to come off the bench, you see just how much of a difference. Sometimes it's so hard because people have been clamoring for him to start because you see the goals and he's so efficient off the bench that wouldn't you want that every match? And it's like, well, actually, the whole team changes in order to do that. So I thought going back to the basics and going with that 4-3-3 illuminated a new path.
I thought defensively they looked better as well. There was just more structure. There was more balance because when they did, I'll put my hand up for this. I said they need to go with 2 front runners with Chicharito and Joveljic, but they looked way more balanced. Ricky Pooch, like you said, just had that more freedom to stay higher up the pitch where he does do extremely well. You see when he defends, he picks up unnecessary yellow cards, he's already had 5 yellow card accumulation in it when they were at that 2 front runners. And it comes down to, he's not a great defender and that's not a bad thing. You don't need him to defend that well. You need him on the ball, creating chances, but to be able to deal with Espinoza and Abobasi with how they did it with just pressure, cover, support. I just thought they had everything covered, whether it was the ball from wide areas, the ball coming down the middle of the pitch, center back stepping. I love that you had touched on Neal because he has been a really bright spot and I thought he was fantastic. Just his communication, even as a viewer for that game, just watching him guide and point players in the right direction. That's what you want from a center back. So it makes that midfielder job easy. And I thought he was brilliant.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I'm trying to decide. I think these mics are better than our ones when we're at home. And it may be that nobody else is hearing this and they just think we're insane. They're just like, we keep talking about fire alarms and beeping in the background.
Well, we've all been here for 3 days
are you,
straight.
Yeah,
so.
like, are you gaslighting
I think our
us?
listeners,
like,
we've conditioned them for this.
Yeah,
They're
like
ready.
they're like, I'm like, I think my fire alarm is going off right now. Like, what is happening here? I will also say to the Galaxy's, their credit, let's say, that they were making a lot of defensive changes early in the season. In particular, Caligari and then Aude coming in, and both those guys start at fullback. Whenever you're making that many changes early in the season, trying to like integrate young players while your defense was not particularly good prior. The only consistency here on the back line is, I guess, Bond back in, which is huge. But Caceres, Neil's new, Aude's new, Caligari's new. Like they had more change than I think maybe we gave him.
Julian
credit for.
Araujo as well. I think he led the team in assists the past 2 years.
I mean,
So,
he was a huge loss. I think we undersold how big a loss that was. But this was a big win, and it wasn't the best that we've seen by any means from San Jose. We'll see what they do with Cade Cal at the U20s. He did score, Cade Cal, twice in a friendly as they prep for the U20 World Cup. So
add him
that's
to
good
the
news
show.
for him.
Yeah, we definitely.
Yeah, we just Cade, Kaylin, and Kaylin. Kaylin.
Isn't there Caden Clark or something?
Yeah, Caden Clark.
We need to add him to the show as well.
I was trying to think of other Kaylins before this, and I couldn't think of any. So
we're rare.
Somehow we collected the only 2 Kaylins in North American soccer onto one show, which is pretty incredible. Inter Miami 2, New England 1. New England still tied for the Supporters Shield lead with Cincinnati and actually above them on tiebreaker, despite losing in Miami. And Inter Miami, they lost 6 straight. We were piling on Phil Neville, and now they've won 3 in a row. And it says everything about this league, which is that you're never out of touching distance.
No.
Ever.
I mean, Phil, for me, I think I was saying this to you behind the scenes, Andrew, that he works so well under pressure because this isn't the first time where he's gone 6 winless. This has happened twice before. So I
the
love.
club started. Well, that wasn't him, but
no.
The
So
club
twice.
started.
Yeah.
The
5
winless.
Yeah.
Remember that.
But he's done a great job, and he's got the best out of his players, and he's also dropped players in big moments. And you saw that. I always bring it back to Gonzalo Higuain because who's ever dropping a Gonzalo Higuain and then getting a reaction out of him like that, and getting a reaction and response where it was mutual, that there was respect there. You'd see at pitch side that Gonzalo would, talk to him about maybe a tactical change or a coaching change when he was on the bench, which like that blows my mind. And to be able to drop someone like a Joseph Martinez, another big personality, because he hadn't been playing well, then getting the best reaction out of him, coming off the bench against his former club, getting a brace, breaking records. Same with Capana. Capana has been, injury prone since coming to Inter Miami, but now back fit, healthy, and also getting a brace before Joseph did. But then Phil's also very good with giving young players confidence. So not only can he manage the big egos and the big time players, I mean, you're giving players like Kremansky and David Ruiz in the midfield, 2 homegrown players, back-to-back starts. And both of these players, fantastic. It's so unfortunate that David Ruiz isn't going to be available next match because he's such a good player, especially without the likes of Mata and Gregory in here. But DeAndre Yedlin, he struggled for me at the beginning of the season. He's come alive. They've switched back to this 3-5-2 where he's higher up the pitch. He 2 back-to-back games with assists, cheeky little touches around the corner. He looks back to his old self, more confident as well. And then Drake Callender coming in as a 3rd string goalkeeper and has won that starting position, a contract extension after bringing in quality goalkeepers. I love what Phil Neville can get out of players when they are down in the dumps. I don't know how he does it. But yeah. Love it.
So
well done, Inter
3
Miami.
goals now from Joseph Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
4 for Kai Kamara. This only matters because Football Profits hit us up and said with Kai being on pace for a good season and Joseph having good 2 games here and resurrecting his career, who's going to end the season with the more goals? Kai or Joseph?
Kai.
I'm going to go Joseph.
I like that split.
I'm
going to go
break it.
Joseph Martinez.
Mm.
I'm going to go
Love
Joseph. I feel like he has the potential to just get on the super heater, whereas I think Kai is more likely to be like, hey, consistently 1 every 3 games, maybe he's going to get a goal.
I just saw the look in Joseph's eyes, and whenever you see that look in his eyes, you're like, oh God, look out. So if he can stay healthy, look out.
That's a big if. I
Yeah.
will say to that
Yeah.
front, I don't have those doubts about Kai Kamara.
No.
That dude's going to be on the field.
Yeah, and he's going to get chances. It's repeatable actions, chances, set pieces, all that. I mean, Joseph did look. The big difference for me was his confidence.
Yeah.
You could just see it coming back from coming off the brace, and that's the best way. Sometimes when you're starting so many matches and you're not scoring, sometimes it's actually better to go to the bench. And to Neville's point, or to his credit, it's not an easy decision to make, but sometimes it can be in the benefit of the player because you're just pressing and continually to get chances. But if you're not confident, and honestly, like, not to take Chicharito out of it, but he didn't look confident to me. Like the Chicharito that I'm used to seeing is going to finish those chances that he got in the first half. And I'm not saying they need to stick with what they're doing.
Hey,
but,
don't talk about my boy
Sorry.
like that. Come on now.
but I think for Joseph, you come off the bench and that pressure comes off. You get two. Now you start the next match. You get one. And the way he took his chance too, it was a nice. What's the young player's name? The center midfielder.
Kramaski.
No. The holding one. Sorry.
Diaz.
Diaz, yeah, he did a good job there to fight and win that ball and then find it over to Joseph. But those are the ones that I was seeing him rushing in earlier matches this year, where he would just immediately lash at it or try and take it, and he just steps on the ball, has a look up, calmly finish. So that confidence for him is the big difference. Not to say that I don't think he's going to beat Kai Kamara this year, because I got Kai's back.
Got all that stock.
Yeah.
I do
appreciate
love
that.
Kai though. He's great.
Let's see. Bruce Arena not happy after this one in his team's performance. He was like, we didn't show up. We got scored on in the first 10 minutes. Like, this is not good enough. And Bruce is always good for reaming his guys when he doesn't think they've been up to par.
We got the disco lights.
Yeah, now
going
we've got
on
the
in here.
flashing lights. I'm told that the fire marshal is here. So this is for all of our own safety.
By the way, great goal by Noel Buck.
Yeah, it was a great goal. Do you think it should have stood?
Wait, what did you say on extra time?
I said that.
Oh, sorry, instant replay.
Yeah.
I need to get the brain.
No,
right.
as soon as you say it doesn't matter what you say. Anytime you talk about
What
referees,
did you
my
say on
brain
extra
just
time?
goes straight to IR.
Yeah.
I said I understand why the call was made, and New England had to be frustrated because this is the second time this year they've had a borderline offside interfering with the goalkeeper call on them that they didn't like. I said I understand why the call was made. I didn't think on review that it was clear and obvious. I don't think Drake Callender doesn't see this. I think he does see this.
Yeah, there's also no chance he's saving.
No, 100%.
And the other thing too for me is that so now I'm going back on it. This should be a goal because Imo Boateng is coming from the other side. So it's not like he's running across the vision of Callender.
Yeah, look, Buck kind of comes out, and I think if you look at that behind the goal angle, you can see that Drake Callender is seeing Noel Buck hit this ball. And if Buck hits it back across the goal toward the near post, I think there's a good case there because it's coming back across Imo Boateng. But he doesn't. He hits it to the far post, and Drake Callender takes 2 steps, tries to dive. I think he sees it the whole time. Doesn't get there because it's an absolute mash into the bottom corner by Buck. And also, Drake Callender doesn't complain. Drake Callender doesn't jump up every goalkeeper. If this happens, goalkeepers are conditioned. They understand. It doesn't even matter if it's close half the time. They're jumping up with their hand up.
He's very chill, I'll say that.
They're saying offside, offside, offside. They're trying to get that call made, and I didn't see him make it. So I understand in theory why this goal was called off. I just don't personally like it.
You know what this goal reminded me of watching? Preki.
Oh, the left foot.
Yeah, that Preki cut just cutting right across. I mean, I was watching it back now if you were watching.
Yeah.
But I mean, just Noel Buck, he has a little something extra to him because he plays more of, in that dual 6 role. I think is his best spot in like a 4-2-3-1. But he's played more advanced in other points of time. But I think when he gets in and around right on the edge of the box, he has a really good sense of space. And then, the technique that's an attacking move. I mean, just not just a holding player. I think he's got more to his game. So sad to see for the young Buck.
Doesn't count for New England, but if you're his agent, chop that and send that over.
The reason why
overseas.
Bruce also is probably so frustrated, this happened earlier in the year to them. You remember that?
Yeah, it was the Gustavo Bo one.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, Bo, yeah. Yep. Where another player standing there, and it's like, oh man, sometimes that rule for me is starting to become one that's probably being too we're over analyzing this one,
too sensitive,
as opposed to saying there's no way he's saving that. That's a good goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our one-touch takes here. We'll start with Atlanta United at home against Charlotte FC. We already told you Justin Miram got a brace and prayer hands, etc. All respect to the 5 stripes. Georgios Giacomakis returned in this one, and he had some interesting things to say. He had a good performance off the bench. Here is Giacomakis' quote. Right now, sometimes we don't play with our teammates. This is something we need to change right away. If we keep losing, keep dropping points, then the fans will disappear and they will be right. We bring the fans to the stadium. We send them away with our performances. I hope that we will give them some joy to come and watch us. This after a third straight loss.
The fans in Atlanta aren't going anywhere, by the way. They're showing up good, bad, or
yeah,
ugly.
no, I
and
agree.
We've seen that.
I agree, but they will ask for more. We've seen that in the past. I think they're going to ask for more here.
Sign Justin Miram.
Yeah, he's asking. Maybe he's asking for it. LPR
bring him back.
Says, give some love to Charlotte FC. Are we en route to top 5? Top 5 of what is the question. The team is turning around from season start till now. Yeah, that's on the back of better defensive performances, but still not good enough in my opinion. I think just 2 games in the last 7, giving up fewer or equal or fewer than 1 goal, and that's not going to get you there. The positive news for Charlotte, this performance was good on the road for sure, but it's the DPs getting into form.
But they did it without Capetti as well, which is even more impressive at Atlanta,
usually
at the
on form. Karol Soderski's finally on form. Kopetti's been rising up.
But that's the difference makers in Major League Soccer. Everyone speaks about it because of the gap. DPs, if you don't have DPs that step up, you're not going to be a good team in Major League Soccer. You're seeing it with Atlanta. Without Giacomakis, without Almada the one game, without Miles Robinson, without Brad Guz.
Miles Robinson wishes he was a DP, but
okay, sorry, a big player. Yeah, he should be a DP, but you see the drop in quality in games, and so for Charlotte, I mean, they started the season, in bad circumstances with things in the off season, so mentally probably weren't there, and then a load of injuries. So they're coming slowly back, but I will say their DPs have been outstanding. They've been good. Not outstanding. They've been very, very good.
Key is win on the field, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when they're healthy.
So Giacomakis should help things, but Atlanta United certainly under pressure right now, and all love to Charlotte. 3 wins in their last 4 games, including some Open Cup success. Crew 2, not the MLS Next Pro defending champs, but they scored 2 goals over the weekend. The first 2, Orlando City 2. Kalen Orlando came back. Erkan Kara and Duncan McGuire both scored, and it's too bad Doyle's not here to dunk on all of us. Pun intended.
It's honestly the most consistent team that I've seen with Orlando City this season.
A draw was out of character.
It was, and it screwed all of the statistics that I had going into Matchday 12 or Matchday 13 previews. Or 12, I don't even know what day we're on anymore. Blending. But the biggest one for me, I was looking at this Orlando side when they were struggling with Ojeda or Torres or Kara, McGuire. I was like, start the man, give him the start. Then he did extremely well, got injured, and then Kara stepped up. So now he's been stepping up. So it's who do you start if you're Oscar Pereira? Like, do you switch your system instead of going with just one front runner?
Nope.
I'm like,
nope.
So who do you start then?
Whichever one's hot.
They're both hot.
So that's a great problem. Perfect problem to have.
Yeah, it's a perfect problem. You put your best players on the pitch.
Yeah, but I don't.
Especially in Major League Soccer.
Together, are they the best players? I'm not sure about that.
But they've not done it together.
Test
it. They've not been consistent enough to not test it.
Their best player is Facundo Torres. The problem is they want to put him central, which I'm fine with. He's just not producing so far. I'm less worried about forward at this point with McGuire back from that hamstring injury and Kara scoring goals. Pick your guy. If he's not doing it, 50th minute, switch the other one in. All good. But they need more from Martin Ojeda. They need more from Facundo Torres. They need more from the guys who are paid big money in that midfield to be the creators for the players up top, to be goal scorers as well. Ojeda and Facundo Torres are both expected to be goal scorers.
Imagine having that front 4 on the pitch.
Yeah.
You have someone like a McGuire that does the complete opposite of Kara. He's a big body back towards goal. He can link up play, allows Kara to get a little bit more free with time and space with the ball at his feet, late runs inside the 18-yard box. Then you have wing play with Ojeda or Torres, balls from wide area, wherever you want to play Torres, if you want to play him centrally or put him out wide like we saw at the start of the season. Can you imagine going up against that team?
Yeah.
You're like, no, I can't.
I just can't imagine Oscar Pereira doing it.
I know.
I just can't imagine it.
This is why I'm not a manager.
But a draw for them is nice. No Lucas Illaraian, which was interesting. But Cucho Hernandez looked good. He took a ton of shots, just didn't score a goal. I think one was called back, and the Crew blew a lead. And I don't think they've won in 4. So not great for them, but they have a busy week coming up with Open Cup as well. Kaylin, you were in the nation's capital for DC Nashville.
Yep.
Anything bigger than No Benteke, not the same DC? And
I mean, DC had to survive. I thought it was a good result for them. For Nashville, disappointing. They could have pushed themselves further up the table and really kind of like they're hovering right there. And we saw those past few weeks where they're able to get goals and Hani getting hat tricks and all that, and just felt like they could really, with New England losing and Cincinnati out, that was a big chance for them to kind of make up some ground. And for me, it's just like, I think they lack a little bit of attacking depth. They brought in Fafa, who changed the game. He really helped create that goal that led to that bizarre goal that I don't think I've ever seen happen. But after that, they kind of had to go into a shell, and they took out, I think, Dax and Godoy. They brought in Sean Davis, Anunga, but they kind of just started to go into they gave DC too much
When
space.
Anunga comes on, you know what Gary Smith is doing.
I mean, I get shutting it down, but DC hadn't been threatening to that point. And so sitting in that shell is almost inviting pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The one time they got caught stepping out a little bit where Shaq Moore and Sean Davis, who's just returned from injury, they got caught up. Both of them got caught up in the one time, and that's where they find Fletcher, who just drives picked his head up well to get the assist. But Nashville, to me, it was disappointing because they had a chance to close that one out with 3 points and ended up just taking one on the road.
Speaking of disappointing, that's Austin FC's season in a nutshell. That's 8 straight without a win. They won their second and third game of the season as they were sort of bouncing back from CCL, and it's been nothing since then. FC Dallas with a late goal from Jesus Ferreira. Rodney Redes had looked good recently for Austin, or at least better. He gets a second yellow, gets a red card sent off. That changed things. Owen Wolf is going to the U20 World Cup. Driussi is still injured. Diego Fagundes is not the Diego Fagundes of old, and Rigoni had a flash, but a flash is not going to be enough to keep this team above water. So not going great. Dallas is sort of like same old story. Don't look like world beaters, but find a way. And when Jesus Ferreira plays at Q2 Stadium, he tends to score goals. He's now got 5, I think it is, against Austin and 7 in the building because obviously the U.S. national team have played there as well. So shout out to him. Dallas have absolutely dominated Austin in the regular season. I think it's 4 wins and 2 draws maybe all time, but Austin can look back and say, hey, we got that playoff win. But yeah, Dallas, nice W, but not a vintage performance. And man, just Austin, things keep piling on them. The Dynamo, Kalen, at home, they don't pile on anybody. They don't pile on anybody anywhere. Like, they can't figure out how to score goals, and when they get 2 red cards, you know what's going to happen. They're going to pack it in.
They've been good at home.
Well, that's right. But again, they're not blowing people out, let's say.
No.
They're undefeated. Sorry, I had my mic off. I'm screaming up. They were undefeated at home, and how many clean sheets? They didn't have any goals scored against them at home.
No. This was
So how can you say that?
Well, I
And just
wasn't
get outta
talking about
here.
the defense. I was talking about the goal scoring.
Yeah.
You know, if Amin Bassi's not going to take a penalty right now, they're probably not going to.
Yeah, that part's tough. I mean, this was a crazy one because of the weather delay, and then going down one man and then early, and then you're playing against Seattle. You're gonna have to basically
Yeah, they
park
packed it
the
in.
bus. Yeah. And then the second one.
Understandably so, by the way. I'm not.
Yeah, and they almost got through it. They almost
A
got through it.
0-0 would have been an incredible result. Like
Mhm.
Ben Olsen would have been doing Frank Klopas, going around the field hugging everybody, high fiving.
Yeah.
Anders
But
just
now
said
they're in
earlier,
a tough
hip
spot because they're
thrusting.
going on the road to
Don't need to see that, Frank or Ben.
Sorry.
Minnesota United. So it's 2 teams that are having trouble scoring goals. So I'm in for a good one in this one. But yeah, no, I mean this. I still think Houston has been improved, but without finding who's going to get that goal, and you and I going back and forth on Sebas Ferreira, should he play? Shouldn't he play?
I don't
We
know.
went through that.
I feel like they got to try anything, and at this point, the next guy to try is Ibrahim Aliu, who they signed right before the end of the transfer window, shutting
Yeah,
from Croatia. So
I've heard good things.
it's not Corey Barrett. I don't think is that guy. I would think he'd be better on the wing, and he might be moved to the wing because now you don't have Bassi in this game, who's suspended. So Corey Barrett on the wing, less pressure to score goals. He hasn't scored a goal this year, and give your U22 signing a chance to run in behind and do something a little different.
Kalen, would you start Ferreira?
No,
No.
No chance.
Ooh.
Hey, look,
Love it.
in the moments I've seen him play, he hasn't brought it.
Yeah,
And I don't
okay.
know if he fits the way this team is playing with the way that they want to try and use the ball, find opportunities. I think they need a little bit more athleticism
Yeah.
around too. So I understand at a certain point, it's like, man, if they don't go to him in this one where you're missing players,
Tells you everything.
I think that's going to, that could say a lot to me as to where his standing is.
Mhm.
He has gotten 2 starts in the Open Cup, and that was maybe one of the reasons he didn't start over the weekend. But yeah, they needed somebody to do it, and if it's not going to be him, if he's not going to get those opportunities, if he doesn't fit the culture or the style of play, then they got to find a landing spot probably.
And probably get out to the market to
Yes.
sign some players.
Yes.
You can.
Sporting Kansas City 3, Minnesota United 0. Kalen, that's 2 straight wins for Kansas City. They're now just 3 points out of a playoff spot.
You know what? This is actually working because now you're just saying Kalen, and it actually works this time.
You think so?
I mean,
the question is, we know, but do the people at home know
What?
which Kalen I'm talking to?
No, I mean, we don't know.
Oh, but you just assumed.
It both works.
Oh, okay.
Either way.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Minnesota's still above the playoff line, right? 12 points. The crazy thing is now Kansas City on 9 is just 3 points back in last place. I mean, it's a 3-point gap in both conferences
Crazy.
from 9th to 15th.
It's crazy. For Sporting Kansas City, everything for me is the DPs there. And that's the story. I feel like a broken record just speaking about it today on Extra Time. But beginning of the season, all DPs injured. None of them had played together since, what was it, 2019 or something crazy like that?
No, it was 2021.
2021? Okay, I'm just making up stuff here on set. But it was a really long time. You have Gadi Kinda, been fantastic since coming back from injury. 3 matches in the league, scored against Minnesota. He looked really, really good. And the 2 wins, I think that's turned that around, and just the confidence. They literally played Minnesota off the pitch. Like, Minnesota didn't have an answer for them. It was just waves and waves and waves of pressure. Johnny Russell, Alan Polito, they've looked fantastic as well.
Shalloway's looking good again.
Shalloway's looking good. So this is great for Peter Vermees, because I was really hard on Peter Vermees before, and you guys touched on it. Sporting director, head coach, what do you do when you're in a position like that? A fantastic manager in Major League Soccer, but he didn't have the pieces to his puzzle. Now you're starting to see it. The rotation up top, it was very difficult for Minnesota, and that was a team that was the one thing that they had going for them. Defensively sound at the beginning of the year without Emmanuel Reynoso, and they weren't at all. So, and then on the flip side, Minnesota, it's bad. I mean, if you don't have attacking players to put the ball into the back of the net, and now you're giving up 2-3 goals in a game, like, it's not good enough. It's dire right now, and you have to have a big moment to turn it around. And hopefully that'll be midweek here, because it's game after game after game, and they don't have a lot of depth in Minnesota right now. Emmanuel Reynoso, I know, just talking to Adrian Heath about that, I'm like, when can you get him back on the pitch? And it's the league that needs to clear him. So hopefully that happens within 3 days, honestly. Like, they need him back so bad. And they need
3 days.
to, I'm kidding,
That's
obviously.
a quick preseason.
I'm kidding. But honestly, at that moment, if he could go 10 minutes, like, I know he's probably not fit. You take what you can get in Minnesota right now, but they have to go out, and they have to, it's a broken record again. They have to spend the money this time. Like, proper money for a number 9. Because who was it that said, I think it was Ben Olsen, that $2 million now gets you a striker where you're thinking, is he going to be good enough for Major League Soccer? It's changed so much, the market, that you need a $5, $7, $8 million striker that okay, yeah, we know exactly what we're going to get from him, because $2 million doesn't do that for you anymore in Major League Soccer, which is a great thing.
They've tried it.
Yeah.
They have. Amaria, etc.
Well, they tried to go with 2 strikers up top, this last one with Son Bin Zhang and Huang Wane.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was because both of them have some pace, and I think matching up against Sporting Kansas City, you'd think having some pace and energy could potentially hurt them, because we've seen that work against Sporting.
Yeah.
The hard part is, in order to do that, they played 3 center backs against 3 pretty good, in-form, confident strikers, with Polito's doing well, Shalloway scored an amazing goal, and Russell. So that was always going to be a tough matchup with their mobility with Kallman, Boxall, and Tapia. So they quickly switched that back, but it was too late at that point. So I would assume Minnesota will go back to that 4 in the back base that we generally see from them. But for Sporting Kansas City, I mean, they look confident. Looks like a totally different team.
Yeah.
They were able to ride 1. They lost in the Open Cup. That was to the Dynamo, which you always expect Sporting Kansas City to lose to Dynamo. I mean, come on. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But they look like a different team. They look actually really confident. They're getting numbers in the box. That's a big thing for me. And Gadi Kinda was a player that I thought, boy, they need him. Like, he's going to... But he's been out so long, it's unfair to put those types of expectations or pressure on him. But he's doing it.
I actually like that they brought him off the bench this time around.
They started him at the last week against Seattle, and then played him 45. This time they bring him off the bench late. So they're talk about Reynoso and finding a plan of how do you integrate a player. Like, I haven't. That's how desperate they are, is to try to find a way to play him either at the front or the back. But in those short windows, he's proven to make a difference.
Here's a quote from Peter Vermees I thought was interesting. Quote, "Make no mistake about it, there's a side of me that is vengeful for sure." This is about some of the doubters, perhaps.
Wow.
I want
love
to
that.
show everybody that we are good. I know inside the locker room, inside the group, that we want to show everybody that we are that good. I know there's a lot of doubt.
I think that was directed towards me.
I mean, he's
Sorry, Peter.
I love that quote. That's an incredible quote.
Yep.
Reynoso, by the way, is in Minnesota. Obviously, he is still suspended by the league. He is training on his own.
Mm-hmm.
They said multiple times a day at times.
Which he needs to. He needs to buy back the respect of the locker room.
So we'll see. There's a path back for
You know
him.
what? The one thing I will say about finding a way back, if you're good, if you're like so
the path
far and
is a
away
lot-
the
yeah,
best
path
player,
is a lot
you
easier.
got to say sorry. You do. But it makes my life easier as, someone who likes to run off the ball, would love some distribution, some nice
You're not
pass.
wrong.
If you're a striker, you're not finding form. It's like,
Be
Ray, I
cool-
think we
it
could let.
be cool to play the ball to somebody's feet and know that they're definitely not going to lose it. Might beat two guys.
I
and then
mean,
feed
the
me in
whole
on goal.
system was built around him. So
Yeah. Robin
to-
Lod would probably just like to stay in one position
yeah, he's
rather
like,
than
I'm
a defensive
tracking.
move. Yeah.
That's not fun.
It's
So
like, that wasn't cool, but it is cool. You're back now.
I mean, I'm not saying that because I do think there is a lot of trust that is lost. So I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just saying it does make it easier.
All right, Rapids Philly. We're going to do these quick. Rapids Philly, I say that right as I'm about to mourn a Rapids L at home. I want them to win a home game, man. They haven't done it so far. 2 red cards at the end. There was a brawl. It got really heated in this one. Colorado probably had their worst performance of late. Just really didn't create that much, I didn't think, and didn't do much with it once they had those opportunities in the final third. But Philly has 3 straight wins in the league. And they don't have the Open Cup to focus on. They don't have CCL to think about. And those might be, big bummers for them. But now at least they got their heads straight and they got something to motivate them a little bit. Injuries are still an issue. Mikel Ura is out in this one. Jose Martinez is not available. Jack McGlynn is going to the U20 World Cup, as is Quinn Sullivan. And another player who I've been accused of confusing. So I won't even – it's either Brandon Craig or it's Connor Donovan. Honestly, I forgot and I already got stick for it. So I won't go deeper on that one. But I think Philly are sort of in that sleeping giant mode where we know they have the performances, we know they have the players, they proved it before, they had a lot to worry about, and now they can be focused. So let's see what they can do in the league. LAFC, super focused. Kalen Carr, 3-0 at Real Salt Lake, who have 3 straight L's.
Yeah. I like the Opoko goal stood out to me. I like the way he strikes down on that. Sometimes I found ways to mess that one up in the past. So the way he strikes down on that was good, but Bwanga's as well. It's just they just have so many different weapons. I do think it was starting to add up, just the congested fixtures, but they did a good job. They didn't bring any players. Not one player traveled midweek in the Open Cup, so that allowed the team to really focus just on the weekend. It's a risk, but they got past Monterey Bay. Shout out to them for making it difficult, but. It is a worrying sign a little bit as you look towards CONCACAF Champions League, just as far as how do you manage, because it's not just a physical output, right? That's a big part of it, but I think also the emotional tool of playing in different competitions and keeping your eye on one thing with this other big thing just waiting on the other side of it. And so how they manage their minutes, but the confidence in the group, I mean, right now, and the quality overall is just incredible.
I apologize to Real Salt Lake. It was 3 straight shutouts, so it felt like L's to me, but they've only lost one of those games, which was this one against LAFC. So, hey, scoreless draws against Houston and Seattle are pretty darn good. We'll finish here. Portland Timbers, Vancouver Whitecaps. Any thoughts on this one? I ask myself. Evander looks great. I think it's 3 goals, 2 assists in the last 3 matches, and he had a brace in this one, and his individual effort was absolutely incredible. But the big thing for me is the first half of the season, he was playing much deeper, receiving the ball much deeper, and those are just not the positions he's going to do something special in and give you what you need for the price tag and his reputation. And credit to Gio Savarese and the Timbers in a team that's had a ton of injuries and issues in the midfield and the attack. They found a way to get him further forward, and once they did, he started creating 3-4 chances a game. He started having half an XG a game as well, and he started scoring goals. So I am not surprised, given those adjustments, that he's starting to show his talent, and it's wonderful to see Evander doing that. And Vancouver had their 8-match unbeaten run snapped here. Their only goal was scored by the other team, Zach McGraw, with an epic own goal. And Zach McGraw and Dario Zubarich should be the center back pairing for the Timbers, if I may say so myself. Quickly.
See, whoa, Andrew, you could do this thing by yourself.
Probably. It wouldn't be as fun though, and it definitely wouldn't be. It wouldn't be
You're
good.
supposed to say no.
No, it wouldn't be good.
Probably.
I could sit here and list things that that I think, and that nobody wants to listen to that. They want to hear the back and forth. They want to hear the Kalins.
All right, go on. Wednesday game.
Kaylin, Kyle, what game do you want to watch Wednesday night?
Toronto versus Red Bulls. I think Red Bulls back-to-back wins, Open Cup and league play with new manager. But it's Toronto for me. Question marks. They have to win, and they have to win because they're at home. And if they don't, hot seat, hot.
I'm going to go. Well, I'm going to be on the commentary with my good pal Callum Williams back in where he's from. Well, he's not technically from there, but he spent a lot of time
Started in Kansas City, Kaylin. I don't want to.
Oh, respect.
Yes.
I know. He used to commentate on it.
Yeah, he and I. He was there when I was still just a local buck.
Yeah,
not a national.
That's good.
Pundit.
I knew that weeby.
Yeah.
You came to Houston a couple times.
Yeah. It was a different weeby.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, it was a different weeby.
You guys are having a
I've
moment
changed.
here. I'll just leave.
I've changed.
Well, we used to get upset because literally none of the MLS folks would come out to Houston ever until we got to the playoffs.
Right, and then I would show
every
up
time
and
we'd
take
see
the
Weeby
brunt
walk
of
in, and
all
we'd be
of it.
like, "This MLS guys are in here right now. Go get them."
I was the enemy. For sure.
But yeah, we'll be in Minnesota for their match against Houston. I do say, I talked about the lack of scoring goals, but I like that makes the match tense. And for Houston's perspective, they need to find an answer to get goals and opportunities. Now players stepping out, but Minnesota United haven't won a home game. So that crowd, the way that they've been behind them, I've seen them really give away some late ones in the matches that I have called there. So I think that atmosphere, that pressure is going to be on both teams, and that's a good recipe. The one if I kind of look ahead to Saturday, sorry.
No, you can't.
I want to see it. Hell is real. That's the one. That one.
That's
that
fine.
one is
Okay, that's fine,
exciting because it's still within the scope of rivalry
That's
week.
true. I was going to take Cincinnati, Montreal. I think that's a really interesting one with Montreal on the run they're on, and Cincinnati back after that bye. And I would also throw out Philly DC as a good match midweek as well. I have to read this email, and I'm going against Anders to do so. Tim Weaver. Oh man, to hear Peoria, Illinois mentioned on Extra Time made my night. The fact that nothing negative was said was the icing on the cake. Let me take this opportunity to brag on this central Illinois city for a moment. U.S. News and World Report ranked Peoria the best city in Illinois to live in. Bonusfinder.com, I don't know what that is, but ranked Peoria as the 14th best party city in the nation and number 1 in Illinois. Is Illinois State there? Is that? Do you know?
No, there wasn't. We played out of college. I think it's Bradley.
Bradley, okay. Richard Pryor and Jim Thome were born in Peoria. And we have a USL 2 club who is about to begin their second season. We made the playoffs in our first season, and Tim Reagan, the former MLSer, is our new head coach. I will gladly send Kaylin Carr some merchandise if he will adopt us as his USL 2 club. You can't stop the flying carps. Attached are a couple pics of merchandise here. Scroll down, Kaylin, so you can see them. Hit me up if you're feeling this. Kaylin Carr, you also got a free place to stay if you want to catch a match this summer. Flying carps forever. Their mascot is a literal flying carp.
Wow.
I think there's invasive fish in the rivers in Illinois, and those are the carps that like fly out of the water and hit people in the face as they're boating.
Some mean teeth.
That is an amazing message. And by the way, Tim Regan, excellent guy. Great dude overall. I remember I think I did a preseason with him. Just awesome guy. So if he's coaching, I'm on that squad for sure. I went to a really cool record shop. He didn't put that in the list, but I did go to a record shop in Peoria. I need to track that one down, but I didn't know it was such a party town. I didn't go out that night.
Flying carps forever, though.
I was so tired from chasing Robbie Rogers. We played against Columbus. And I remember just being like, I thought I was fast, and I played against him, and I was like, oh my, this is like chasing him up and down the wing all match. That's probably why I didn't make it out that night. It was brutal.
All right.
But that's amazing. Let's go carps. Flying carps
you
forever.
now have you don't even need an Airbnb in Peoria.
And you get a t-shirt.
Tim Weaver's got you. Or he also sent some pictures of scarves with the skyline.
Cute.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
I also like that it's bonusfinder.com that ranked Peoria as the 14th.
Look, we're looking for
And none of us have ever heard it.
Looking for any source we can on Peoria who got their moment in the sun on this extra time. Thank you to the Kaylin Coalition here for joining me.
It's going to have to live up to Foxborough. Some nights out in Foxborough.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. Is it Gillette-esque? TBD? Maybe.
Let's see.
Kaylin, you know what we should have?
More
we should
people in
have
Peoria.
our
Let's see if there's a Bar Louie in Peoria.
We should have our own traveling show. The
I would love
Kaylins
that.
take on Major League Soccer, the best partying towns in the U.S.
Kaylins versus the world.
Yeah,
All
done.
right.
It's happening.
Done. All right, that's it for us. The fine folks will see you later this week. David Goss returning from MLS Next, and he will host. I will see you next Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Adios.